Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the second shootout of the 2022 ADAC GT Masters eSports Championship. My name is Connery Medic, and I'll be your English commentator for this evening's events. It was only 2 days ago we had shootout number 1 at Spa-Francorchamps, where we got our first set of drivers qualified into the 2022 ADAC GT Masters eSports season. And today we will get 10 more drivers to complete the grid for the upcoming season. Let's have a little bit of a recap of who has qualified so far. Of course, we've got a couple of drivers that qualified due to their performance from last season. The top 5 in the main GT3 championship. That's championship winner Moritz Lohner, now a 3-time champion of this series. He gets himself a slot automatically. Jacob Brzezinski, Ben Spanky, Florian Hasse, and Isaac Price are all automatically qualified into next season. They do not have to compete in any of these shootouts, which is a rather stress-free route into this year's championship. Also, in addition to those 5 drivers from the GT3 Championship, we have 3 drivers from the support series, from the GT4 Championship from last season. They get promoted up into the GT3 Championship for this coming season. So that's Emre Cihan, who had a absolutely mega season last time out in that GT4 category. He gets himself promoted into the GT3 Championship for this year's season. Adam Pinces and Alessandro Ottaviani also get themselves qualified in. So that's a good handful of drivers already, 8 drivers to be exact, but we also had 10 qualify themselves from Tuesday's proceedings. Here they are. So it's Gianmarco Feduzzi, Leon Rudinger, Jack Keithley, Mark Gassner, Kevin Siggy, Nick Wisniewski, Max Pfeiffer, Michael Raschel, Tim Yarshall, and Leonard Krippener. All those drivers qualified themselves into the coming season from Tuesday's shootout. We'll get 10 more drivers qualify from this shootout at the end of the day. So then we can talk about getting ourselves our full roster for the upcoming season. So a lot to look forward to. Here's the exact timetable here today. Slightly different to what we saw on Tuesday. There's been a couple of changes here and there. The races themselves, they're exactly as they were yesterday. So 15-minute sprint race, no mandatory stop for our first race of the day. And then we get ourselves a 30-minute endurance race at the very end of this evening with that mandatory pit stop. So that's the situation there. If the eagle-eyed viewer might notice that we have a bit more of an extended qualifying session for that qualifying number 2 compared to yesterday. So out with the Super Pole qualifying, in with a regular qualifying for race number 2. That's a change that came through at the end of Tuesday's events. Of course, still 2 of those separate qualifying sessions for each race, but there's no reverse grid shenanigans. And of course, drivers will be able to score points in both races. That will count towards their total at the end of tonight. And the top 10 in that order, in those standings, will get themselves qualified into next season. Speaking of next season, though, let's have a look at what the calendar is looking like. Of course, we've already got our shootout round at Spa-Francorchamps out of the way. This is the one at Hockenheim. And then, of course, a couple of weeks into February, we'll get to see the first round of the ADAC GT Masters eSports Championship proper. That will be at Brands Hatch. Then we head to Watkins Glen, the Nürburgring, Zandvoort, Silverstone, and Monza to finish off the season. That last date is, of course, pending confirmation. Either we'll do it live from Oschersleben as the first round of the real-life ADAC GT Masters Championship happens there, or, of course, with restrictions pending, if the restrictions mean that we cannot do a live event, then, of course, we'll have to reschedule that for an online final on a different date. So that's why there's a bit of an asterisk next to the date at the very bottom of the calendar right there. Well then, let's jump straight into Sim then, as we've got ourselves qualifying underway. So drivers out there, you might notice there's a lot of Corvettes this time around. If you were here on Tuesday night, then you might remember that we had a whole bunch of BMWs. It seems like the balance performance, at least in this instance here at Hockenheim, is preferring the Corvette, which is why you'll see a lot of Corvettes out there. That doesn't necessarily mean that we'll see a Corvette winning today, actually, because we saw Marko Pejic in practice go very, very quick, setting the fastest time in practice with his Porsche. so it doesn't necessarily will mean we'll get to see a Corvette winner, but in all likelihood, we'll get to see that. So there we go. Jack Keithley coming with information. Timmy Archer does not qualify for Shootout 1 as he got a penalty. Martin Barner goes through. Thank you very much for that information, Jack Keithley. That was just the most recent graphic that I had and the most recent information that I had. So thank you very much for the update there. It's always helpful when we get corrections in chat. So there we go. But qualifying underway. It might be a little bit tricky to try and tell the difference between some of these cars because there's been they've enforced sort of the real-life paint schemes to be used here today, so that's why there's only one Corvette paint that's available, so that's why all the Corvettes look identical. So there we go, as we get to see our first times come through here in the first qualifying session of the day. Christopher Högfeldt going fastest provisionally, the Swedish driver in 77 doing pretty well, surpassed though, however, by Petr Pliska. Getting himself towards the top of the order in his BMW. The only BMW here today, in fact, for the, is the driver from Italy at the very top of the order. So bucking the trend, shall we say, in this one. But those are the first sets of lap times getting themselves through now. Pliska still holds on by 0.5 of a second over Christopher Högfeldt in that Corvette. Of course, Erhan Jovski P3 for now, also in the Corvettes. In terms of other manufacturers that aren't Corvettes here, we do have Alexander Dorneden in the Bentley. He's currently P4 in the qualifying standings, and we've got a couple of other Bentleys further down the order as well. Sven Mackenberg and Jonas Vanner also in that Bentley. We have one singular Audi, that is Joyce Blocker, or Blücher, as I have to pronounce the umlaut in that, otherwise the Germans will get quite angry at me. As there he is, P14 in qualifying at the moment, behind the wheel of that Audi. And of course we have the Porsche of Marko Pejic as well. So those are the slightly different manufacturers that aren't Corvettes here in this one. It's going to be relatively tricky to tell who's who. If you want a little bit of assistance, however, the car that the camera is currently focusing on will be indented on the left-hand side there. So that's at least one way you can work out who we are looking at. Christopher Högfeldt, though, coming across the line, set himself a pole position setting time ahead of Pliska this time around. Here is Pliska, though, as he heads his way through that arena section. Of course, not on a lap currently. You're not seeing any sector times appear in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. He's just winding himself up for a lap here behind the wheel of that BMW. He's got himself a little bit of a slipstream, which does help around this circuit, given the relatively long straights and, of course, the flat-out sections where you can really draw yourself up to that car ahead of you. And, Pliska will be hoping that he's able to use that to the best of his advantage as he got cycled all the way back into P3. As Marko Pejic, doing what he did in practice, got himself towards the very top of the order. Fastest Sector 1, though, from Petr Pliska, might be able to challenge those that have robbed the provisional pole position away from him for the moment, continuing to try and catch the tail end of the slipstream of the cars ahead of him. He's got the Porsche of Marko Pejic, like sort of right up behind him, who I believe did come off of the pit lane, so he's on an out lap here, so he won't be at least benefiting on this lap due to the hole that the BMW is punching in the air ahead of him. But we'll continue to watch Pliska's lap here as he's currently heading his way through Sector 2, this fantastic Hockenheim circuit, flicking it through the right-hander. And, coming up to the Sector 2 timing line. Not his personal best whatsoever, about 1/10 of a second off the pace as he heads his way on the exit of turn number 11, and then on the brakes into turn number 12, the Sachs curve, the banked left-hander, hugging that inside all of the way around quite nicely before you flick it through this little S's section of 13 and 14, now in towards 15. And, turn 16, the final corner coming up as well. Make sure you try and get the good drive off this one to carry all that speed across the line. It was a good Sector 1 for Pliska. It was a mediocre Sector 2 and 3 for him, so he's not able to improve on his starting position just yet. Pejic still top of the pile. He's going to be able to start another lap here to try and improve an advantage at the very front. So Pejic looking very, very good despite the sea of Corvettes that are looking to try and challenge his pole position at the moment. Here's Jeffrey Rietveld, who's currently found himself in P3 for now. Again, fastest purple Sector 1 in fact, and you can see kind of see the reason why. He's got a bit of a double slipstream going on ahead of him here, so of course he's going to be reeling in that time coming down the long straights. But now, as he heads his way into turn number 8, one of the big overtaking opportunities here that isn't the hairpin, of course. We'll see a lot of moves down into there, let me tell you that. When the when racing conditions arrive, everyone's still pretty close here in qualifying. We've got the top 23 cars all separated by a second, and well, Jeffrey Rietveld has gotten himself a Sector 2 purple sector time. So this is looking like a very, very tidy lap for the man from the Netherlands. And, well, he gets a spinner ahead of him. Hopefully that hasn't distracted him too much. Hopefully he didn't lift or tap the brakes to be able to avoid that one, to risk, well, abandoning his lap here. He's going to continue on with it out of the final corner. What's the lap time going to be for Jeffrey Rietveld? It is good enough to get himself up into provisional pole position by 1/1000th of a second over Marko Pejic. That is as close as you like here in qualifying number 1, but Pejic does him one better. He goes back towards the very front of the starting grid here today for race number 1. Marko Pejic in the Porsche, able to come out on top. Does anyone have anything else to say in the latter portions of this qualifying session? Well, Tim Yarshall gets himself up into P2, only 15,000ths of a second behind Marko Pejic, but what an exciting end to qualifying here. Of course, hasn't quite completed just yet, but I don't really see anyone on laps that are going to be in any way competitive. So that is going to be the end of the first qualifying session. Of course, we got a little bit of a bug in our overlay at the moment where it shows the back of the field first instead of the front of the field, but we'll just have to deal with that situation. But it is Marko Pejic then that gets himself onto pole position for race number 1 here today. Remember, it's the top 10 in points at the end of the evening that get themselves qualified into the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship season. There's the top 10 on the starting grid. They'll be hoping that they remain in the top 10 at the end of this race. That's the simplest way to do it. Just score consistent top 10s in both races. You should be good in points at the end of the day if you're able to do that. So for Pejic, Yarshall, Rietveld, Högfeld, Pliska, Donaden, Vanna, Jajowski, Drace and Kunze, well, they are looking pretty good. Markovic on the outside of the top 10 there in the Mercedes, one of 3 Mercedes here today. Markovic and Vermeulen also involved in those Mercedes, but we don't get a little bit of a warm-up session before the start here, immediately going from the end of qualifying into the starting grid. So not all that much time to try and prepare yourself for this one, not that much time to try and calm down the nerves and get yourself in the zone for this race start. So 15 minutes of sprint race action about to happen here at Hockenheim. A minimum of, well, a maximum of 25 seconds before we get ourselves some racing action here. Turn 1's not going to be your main, well, action point here today. It's going to be on the brakes in towards turn 2 at the end of the pit straight. Here we go then, 15 minutes of action about to get itself underway with Marko Pejic on pole position. The Mercedes of Tim Yarshall on the outside of that front row. Standing starts here, and we're underway for the second shootout in the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. It's been a great start for Marko Pejic. He leads down in towards turn number 1. Yarshall files in behind. There was an initial scrap there for P3 involving Rietveld and Högfeld. Oh, someone's gone hard into the wall there, and multiple drivers spinning off in towards turn number 1 there. That's Pliska. Pliska's involved in that one. Oh, that's a big, big incident for the BMW. Grunfeld is on towards pit lane. Miguel Costa, the Frenchman, has also been involved in that one as well. That is a huge tragedy for Pliska, who's looking pretty good in qualifying in the BMW, but it seems like he's gotten himself involved in an incident early on here. First time into the hairpin though. Pejic still leads from Yarshall, from Rietveld, but it's a bit of a scrap behind the top 3 or 4 here with Alexander Donaden and Jonas Vanna potentially going, well, briefly wheel to wheel through the hairpin. The 2 Bentleys trying to scrap in amongst each other as they head their way through now turn 7 and into the next braking zone of turn 8, as no one gestures towards the inside just yet. There is a little bit of fighting deeper in the pack as Matija Markovic breaks into towards the top 10. So the Macedonian, not the Macedonian, excuse me, the Montenegrin getting himself up inside of the crucial top 10 in points here at the start of the first race, the sprint race. I saw a little bit of 3 wide going on behind there. It's involving Zeifler, Bodin, Blucher, all involved in this one. It's action no matter where you look on the racetrack right now. Through the Sachs curve they come for the first time. Bodin able to get out ahead in that battle for P18 between himself and Blucher. But let's have a look at that mid-pack train, because it's nose to tail, mostly of Corvettes, of course. But it's great to see everyone so close on the end of lap number 1 here. Very short race, of course, so there's not a lot of time for you to try and be able to improve positions if you've had a poor qualifying. That's why you see some of the desperate moves happening here, as we see Ilya Dravosikov trying to go for a move over David Nagy in towards turn number 1. There's fight behind as well. Wittvoet and Leander Wöhler going wheel to wheel as well. There's a piece of contact in and amongst all of that one. Someone's very slow. I think it's Wöhler that's very off the pace here, coming out of the first sector. Might have had a slowdown penalty as well. Has to let all of the traffic through. This is what happens when you lose all your momentum down the back straight here. Potentially 3 wide. Yes, there is 3 wide in front of them. Into the hairpin with Nagy in the middle of that one. Absolutely incredible. There's a spinner. Oh, there's a spinner. Multiple spinners, in fact, in the hairpin. That was Florian Bodin taking to the pit lane. We had Daniel Berker also have problems as well. The Austrian towards the back of the order. He is the last car that's still running out there on circuit now. So a couple of incidents towards the mid-pack and back here in this one. But with 12 minutes left remaining, still a lot of action potentially to be had. So let's just take a little bit of a breather after a hectic first 1.5 laps then. Let's see the state of the race as Marko Pejic in the race lead right now with Tim Jarschel second place, Jeffrey Rietveld in third, Christopher Högfeldt in fourth. I'm not expecting to see all that much fighting in and amongst the top 5 cars, at least if the first shootout was anything to go by. Drivers, if they were at the front of this top 10, are more concerned about being able to score the points at the top of the checkered flag rather than try and fight for those top positions, because remember, it is the top 10 in points that qualify themselves into the next season. There's no reward for a race win. As we look back through the order, Julian Kuntze, Philipp Drees looking to have a bit of a battle of it for P7. Kuntze might be losing quite a bit of speed here on the way down in towards the hairpin. Yes, he does have the slipstream from the cars in front of him, but he'll have to go defensive as Drees looks to go the long way around into the slowest corner at this racetrack. And, well, Drees is not going to be able to find any sort of line through there. As meanwhile, we had almost a scrap for P2 between Jarschel and Rietveld. I did say I didn't think these guys were going to fight, but it seems like Rietveld wants to try and progress in this race. Looking for a line into that turn number 8, but unable to find one. Tries to get the cut back off the corner, almost draws himself alongside for the right-hander. But all this fighting is dropping them off the back of Marko Pejic, who now has a 1.6 second advantage at the front. So that's exactly what Marko Pejic wanted to see behind him. He wants to see all the fighting so that he can just ride off into the sunset as the race leader and score maximum points here from race number 1. It's great to see everyone in chat just tuning in to this first sprint race of shootout number 2. Of course, a handful of the drivers that got themselves either automatically qualified or qualified for the first shootout are also deciding to come and watch. So hello and welcome, guys. I hope that you're able to take a well-deserved break after that first shootout, because that was a pretty intriguing affair, shall we say. Comments about it's looking like a Porsche, not Porsche's Cup, excuse me, it's a Corvette Cup, and yep, that's just the way the BOP has worked out, it seems, for this round at Hockenheimring. The Corvette, seemingly the most popular car. However, it's a front two. In the front two, none of them are Corvettes. Pejic is in a Porsche, and Jarschel is in a Mercedes. So, not getting to the lead of this race just yet, although Jeffrey Rietveld in third place now is trying the best that he can to try and lock onto the back of Tim Jarschel, but not close enough this time on this lap like he was on the previous one. Back through the order though, this is where the positions become just that little bit more important as Dravosikov looks down the inside of Alita Dinya. And Jarosikov is going to lose some momentum here through the right-hander. Vitvo almost gives him a love tap to his rear bumper. And in the end, all is fair, or all is still single file coming through at turn number 11 and eventually on the brakes in towards the Sachs curve. So coming up to, well, the latter portions of the first half of this race, shall we say. And, well, we had a bit of a chaotic first 2 laps, but everything's starting to settle down right now. I wonder if things will pick up again by the time we get towards the last couple of laps here in the sprint race. To try and score, again, consistently inside that top 10. That's going to be the name of the game here today, to try and get yourself qualified into the main season. And of course, if you don't do it here today, well, you are out of luck. You will not get another opportunity to qualify yourselves in. And this is where it starts to get a bit worrying for the likes of, for example, Petr Pliska, who we know is quick, who we know can mix it in with some of the top drivers here on RaceRoom, but retirement, he's going to be scoring 0 points from this race. And he'll have to do it all in race number 2, even if it is mathematically possible for him to do anything. As Nagy down the inside of Vermeulen, and that is the one that Vermeulen's going to be super frustrated about. He just got dive bombed down the inside and tagged around by Nagy, and he gets sent back to P17. Maybe the steward's going to be having a look at that one, as Jarosikov now involved in the fight with Nagy. As well, Nagy coming through on him to get himself inside the top 10. It was Dinya and Jarosikov that were going wheel to wheel through turn 8 that time around. So a little bit of a flashpoint there in and amongst these handful of drivers inside that mid-pack that are scrapping for the top 10 points. Like I said, they're ever crucial, scoring in the top 10 at the end of both the races here today. So these are crucial points, these are crucial positions. You don't want to be throwing them away. You want to be making that forward progress. Once you're solidly inside of the top 10, however, the pressure is off a little bit for that race number 2. It doesn't mean that you can just drive around without a care in the world, but it makes you a little bit safer. It ensures that you can maybe lose a few positions in race 2, and it does reduce your chances of getting in, but not by as much as if you had a poor first race. But over the halfway point now in this one, 6 minutes left to go. Still, it's P10, very much undecided. Nagy getting himself into that top 10 by, well, spinning one car and sending a dive through turn number 8, as Nagy having to try and defend the inside here down in towards the hairpin. We'll see 3 wide for the top 10 here in towards the hairpin with 6 minutes left to go. Vitvo in trying to capitalize on this one as well. He might get himself 2 positions in one go here. He's got one of them done already, bringing him door to door with Nagy heading his way through turn number 7. They're leaning on each other, trading paints. This battle's not done through turn 8 as Nagy trying to get the momentum down the inside, shoves his competitor in the door, and Vitvo has to surrender that one and remain in P11. Nagy certainly isn't making many friends out there right now on circuit, and look at what it's done to this battle. It's brought yet more third parties into it. We've got Jonas Vanner involved now. We've got Manuel Rodriguez not quite involved in that one. I think there might be a little bit of lap traffic factoring into this one as well, with 5 minutes left to go. Well, front of the field, obviously a little bit quiet. Those guys are secure. They don't really want to fight amongst themselves for a minor gain in points when there's so much more to lose if they have an incident and fall towards the back of the order. That's why they're playing things a little bit more conservative. But however, it's anything but conservative here in the battle for the top 10, as I think that was Vitvo getting all sorts of squirrely outside of, coming out of turn number 1. Pass being made behind, though, the Bentley down the inside. That's Jonas Vanner trying to get the pass done on Nolita Dinya, and he gets it complete as well. So fantastic stuff for Jonas Vanner, getting himself a couple of more points here as we see all this run down the back straight into the hairpin once again. Drivers not as close this time around as they were on the last lap, but doesn't mean that sends can't happen. Speaking of, Jarosikov, has he outbroken himself there? I think he might have Not sure if there was contact involved, but he loses a good couple of positions. Vanna and Dingit are able to capitalize on that one and slot their way through, splitting the pack now on the way down in towards turn number 8 as here come the moves from the drivers behind as Alita Dinya looking to try and go around the outside of Vanna. Not going to be successful this time. Not sure what happened to the Swiss driver Dvosikov there. It looked like he broke himself to me, but the camera angle I don't think told the whole story. But a little bit of excitement here in the closing stages of the sprint race here for shootout number 1. Looking back towards the very front of the field, there is Marko Pejic, by the way. Pejic has been exemplary so far this race. All the fighting has been happening behind him, so it's sort of a run off into the sunset situation for Pejic. Going to be scoring, well, if he gets it to the end, he will be scoring maximum points here today in race number 1. Pressure certainly off for race 2 if that happens. Of course, we still got this undecided affair between Yarshel, Rietveld and Högfeld. Not entirely sure what order they'll come across the line in. Johan Jojowski got a big run of speed over Dorneden here. This is the battle for P5. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen, Jajowski going to send one down the inside into the heavy braking zone. Corvette versus Bentley. And there we go. There's the up and under from Dorneden. Oh, he almost bends it though. Spins up the wheels off the exit of the corner. He ruins all sorts of momentum as he has through the right-hand kink. You have to continue on this fight into turn 8. Jajowski has the inside line, and the contact between the two forces Dorneden out into the runoff. Rejoins the circuit. Not too many dramas in terms of the rejoin, but yeah, close battling for P5 there. And, well, Dorneden is thankful that that wasn't a bigger incident, otherwise he'll be dropping back into the clutches of Kunze, Drace and Markovic, who are currently stalking him from behind. Why does no one pick the Mustang? Yeah, I don't think the Mustang is is available in this series, unfortunately. There, so yeah, because I don't think it races in the real life one either. So yeah, it would be kind of pointless to have a Mustang here. Not to say I'm not a fan of variety. I'm wishing there's going to be a bit more variety here today. But of course, drivers are entitled to pick the best car, or what they feel is the best car for any given track. Of course, that won't necessarily be the case when it comes to the main season, of course, because the car choices are a bit more firmer and made at the start of the season, and it's more of a compromise across the calendar than it is an individual choice for each and every race. And, as we watch this one, well, come to its conclusion. Those top 10 battles still relatively close, not as close as we've seen them before, however, as we've got 50 seconds left remaining. Will we get to see another lap here? I believe we might. We'll just have to wait for confirmation of it, as there is Marko Pejic as your race leader. So in amongst a swarm of Corvettes, it is the Porsche that seemingly is going to come out on top here in the first race this evening. Through the Sachs curve comes the German of Marko Pejic. And, well, 25 seconds left remaining. Of course, the rule is that the time expires, and, well, that is the final lap. So we will get one more lap as Pejic heads his way out of the final corner. One more to go in the 15-minute sprint race. 10 seconds left remaining as he heads his way across the line. So relatively marginal, but having a look to see if there's going to be any battles developing on this last lap. I do not think so, depending on what the situation is coming out of the first couple of turns here, of course, between primarily Jeffrey Rietveld and Christopher Högfeld. Those guys have been relatively close all race, but haven't really shown too much of a development in terms of their fight. So I don't know whether we'll be seeing a dive into the hairpin for Christopher Högfeld. He might just be concerned about scoring consistently solid amount of points for P4 rather than try and getting onto the podium. So he does follow quite closely through the hairpin, but of course no absolute send being made. A more conservative drive required in this situation make sure you score inside the top 10 in points. However, battle for P8 might still be on here between Filip Drace and Matija Markovic, as the Montenegrin will definitely be wanting to try and secure himself more solidly inside that top 10 and increase his chances of qualifying into the next season. Not going to have the opportunity for the move just yet, though. It's going to require a bit of a stellar next couple of corners for him to be able to manage to make things happen. And even if that does happen, the defense in this latter portion of the lap is is easier for that car ahead. So I doubt Jace will lose this position. It would really surprise me if he does. But let's have a look at the front of the field then, because it is a quiet but solid drive for Marko Pejic. With Veloce eSports, he heads his way across the line to win the first sprint race here today. Yarshel and Rietveld are your podium. Everyone else heading their way across the line now. Markovic remains P9, Nagy in 10th place. But of course, this is all ending stewards review. Things will be looked at after the race, of course, with a couple of the incidents that we've seen, to see if any penalties are meant to be applied. But that is the end of the 15-minute sprint race then. We'll have qualifying for race 2 coming up in just a handful of moments' time, and then that race 2, of course, 30 minutes, one mandatory pit stop. They're forced to take tyres, a little bit more of a strategic element coming into that one. For the rest of the runners to head their way through before we get confirmation of the unofficial race results. Like I said, pending stewards review. And here we are then. Marko Pejic takes the race win by 1.5 seconds over Yarshel, with Rietveld set at 3rd place, Högfeld, Jajovski, Dorneden down to 6th place. 7th place goes to Hunse, then Race, Markovic and Nagy rounding out the top 10. So those drivers feeling pretty confident coming into that second race. Drivers less confident than everyone outside the top 10. So Luciano Wittvoet, Savannah, we got Elita Dinya there as well. Ilya Dravosikov, the Swiss driver that was involved in the thick of things today, 14th place for him, as Manuel Rodriguez in 15th, Villa in 16th, with Vimele in 17th, Hackenberg in 18th, and Herbinon in 19th, with Zeifler in 20th. Then those drivers at the very back of the order, well, they're going to need a miracle for the endurance race to be able to get themselves in the top 10 in points. Very surprising to see Perker, of course, down the order. Of course, that was an incident early on as well. Same with Plisker as well, a driver that we thought would be on for a good result here today. However, sometimes these things do happen. The race just doesn't go your way. You get yourself involved in a bit of an incident, and all of a sudden, it all goes out of the window. So like I said, despite this smattering of Corvettes, it is a Porsche and a Mercedes that takes the top 2 spots here at the end of the sprint race. And, well, soon we'll be able to get ourselves involved in race number 2. Remember, we will be getting ourselves another qualifying session here. So there's no reverse grid from race number 1 in this particular shootout format. Of course, when it comes to the actual season, that may end up looking a little different. But for now, those 2 qualifying sessions, and well, we'll get ourselves connected up to the next server here. I'm very thankful for everyone to everyone for watching. Of course, we're not quite done. We still have that 1 qualifying and 1 race session left to go. But yeah, surprisingly, in the Porsche, taking the race win. So yeah. Let's have a look then at the recap. Of course, we had these certain drivers qualify themselves automatically into next season, so that's why they're not featuring in any of the 2 shootouts happening here over these 2 days. Of course, this is the final day of them. So Moritz Lohner, championship winner from last time out. Jacob Brzezinski, Ben Spunky, Florian Hasse, Isaac Price. They are all automatically qualified into next season. And, of course, those drivers that finish in the top 3 in the GT4 Support Championship, they get themselves automatically qualified in this one as well. So it'll be great to see these guys get them, come into their own, get involved in the thick of things when we get into the first couple of weeks of February, which is the season start for the primary season. But, of course, we will just have to wait a little longer to get themselves involved here, as Waiting for the next server to get itself all sorted out and get it up and running. But I wonder what the expectations are going to be for the next race. Gregory Tonia saying hello from Hawaii. That's quite far afield, but hello from that must be a ridiculous time in the morning for you guys over there. As I hope you're happy spending your Thursday morning with us. Doug Roberts saying, I always pick the car no one else will drive. I call it the underdog car. Yeah, I do approve of that strategy there, Doug. It's more fun. I think it's just more fun when you take the challenge of going for the car that's not considered to be better than any of the others. So yeah, that's certainly a strategy that I would go with as well. Just waiting for that next server to go up, everyone. Usually these servers are up relatively quickly, so I wonder if there's a little bit of a delay with regards to the server, and it does look like. So we'll have a little bit of an extended delay here, unfortunately, everyone, as the race administrators try and get themselves the server set back up with the correct configuration. But I hope everyone is doing well regardless. My name is Connery Medic. I'm your English commentator for this evening. Sometimes, unfortunately, these technical issues do happen here on esports streams in particular. So we'll just have to sit tight for now and wait for an update from the organizers to see when that second server will get itself up and ready for the drivers to connect to and for us to connect to as well. And then we can look forward to 30 more minutes of action. So looks like the server has got himself has come up now, so we can get ourselves involved in it. So thank you very much for the patience, and thank you very much for sticking with us here for this one. Qualifying number 2 will get itself underway in just a handful of moments' time. Of course, it's the exact same 10-minute qualifying session to what we saw in race number 1. So that's definitely not a change. Of course, we did have in Shootout number 1 a Super Bowl qualifying for this second event. However, there were some drivers that had a few issues with that in terms of connecting in time and whatnot. So we decided to revert just to a standard 10-minute qualifying session for this one to sort of make everyone happy. But there we go. Cars out there on circuit. Of course, we've just got a handful of minutes now before getting ourselves that session underway. But server is up. Server is ready. Drivers are hopefully pretty ready. I'm all ready for everything as well. I hope you are at home. Tonya, our fellow Hawaiian in the circus, saying, yes, I enjoy watching RaceRoom races in the morning. Well, I hope you're having a very good breakfast there, Gregory, and, well, hopefully you're treated to 30 more minutes of racing action here and exemplary racing action at that as well. Remember, these drivers are competing for one of 10 slots today in the main ADAC GT Masters eSports Championship. That starts in the middle of February. So a lot on the line. No second chances this time around as well, of course. You know, it's always a tricky predicament to be in. Lots of pressure on these drivers' shoulders now. They don't know for sure. We don't know for sure who's going to qualify, who's not. Of course, some drivers are in a better position now thanks to their result in race number 1. You know, if they score even top 15 and potentially might be in, for example, Page, you know, taking the race win in that first race, might be able to, you know, have a poor race yesterday and still qualify. But that could not be, well, it's not the same for every single driver, of course. So that's the interesting thing about these sorts of races. Practice starting to draw itself to a close. So 10 minutes of open qualifying about to get underway once again. So then, qualifying mode has been engaged, and you'll see those cars swamp towards the exit of pit lane. Someone's trying to get out in a hurry. That was Alexander Dornaden just driving through a good handful of cars. You see the absolute armada of GT3 machines on their way into turn number 2 there. So everyone trying to find them, well, I guess attempting to try and find their own bit of space to run in, but of course they want the slipstream from the cars ahead as well. So it's a tricky balance to try to strike. But hopefully everyone's up, everyone's connected, and everyone's ready to go here with their outlaps. Fantastic circuit though. This one at Hockenheim gives you ample overtaking opportunities. It's a very high-speed circuit as well. Lots of fun to drive as a driver, and lots of fun to spectate as a viewer as well. Especially with those big moves being set into hairpin at turn 6, and of course potentially into turn 8 as well. That's another favoured overtaking point. The rest of the circuit flows pretty well as well, so definitely one that ranks quite high on my tier list of circuits. At the end of this outlap, why not? Let's take ourselves a bit of an onboard with one of our drivers here. Of course, I'm having a look in particular at Marko Pejic, who seems to be sort of a little trapped up behind this Mercedes here, making sure that he gets himself ample enough slipstream to be able to go chasing for time on his first qualifying lap. So everyone's slowing it way down. It's sort of like a Monza sort of qualifying from Formula 1 here. Everyone just hoping to get themselves the draft off of each other, heading their way through the final corner. Here comes Marko Pejic then, so I'm going to be quiet for a bit. I'm going to turn up the sim volume, and we'll see how Marko Pejic negotiates this Hockenheim circuit in that Porsche. Very neat and tidy lap there from Marko Pejic, able to go second fastest in this second qualifying session. So Pejic certainly seemingly like the man to beat at the moment. Rietveld was able to put in a tidy lap time as well at the first time of asking. So the Corvette, the Dutchman, goes towards the very top of the order for now, but still plenty of time left in this qualifying session to get things done if you're one of those other drivers. Drivers that have not set a lap time just yet though: Manuel Rodriguez, Daniel Berker, Matija Markovic, Michael Costa, Ilya Dorosikov, and Leonardo Willer, they have not set themselves times just yet. So that's a little bit more pressure coming towards the end of the qualifying session. Of course, you'd rather try and get that first lap time in as a sort of banker lap that you can build off of later on in the session. If you don't have that security, however, that's more pressure on your shoulders for those final couple of laps of qualifying that you don't really necessarily need. But I hope everyone enjoyed that onboard there. It's one of those things that I do on occasion, just to sort of give you the experience, the immersion of being, well, around one of these cars, being in one of these cars. These machines, the Porsche in particular, does sound absolutely fantastic. So it's good to do that sometimes. But for now, here in qualifying, here's another lap from Pejic. He went fastest through Sector 1. Not as quick through Sector 2, however, but he can all recover it in through Sector 3. He does improve, but not quite enough to get himself past Jeffrey Rietveld for pole position. Here comes Christopher Högfeldt then. He's heading his way through the final corner. His is an out lap or an invalid lap. Can't quite tell on this overlay, but either way, coming across the line to start another lap for Christopher Högfeldt in that Corvette. Tim Yarshall, he's out there in P5 at the moment. That's the highest placed Mercedes, of course, one of 3 in this race. Yarshall, Vermeulen, and Markovic, all Mercedes, or all picking the Mercedes for this event. As here comes Yarshall down in towards the hairpin. It was the fastest Sector 1 of everyone, so that's good going for Tim Yarshall. As we'll stick it on the onboard with him. See how the rest of this lap goes. He's not getting as much of a draft as some drivers did on their initial laps here. Maybe that will be a little bit of a frustration that Yarshall will have to deal with, and it will result in a little bit of a slower time. However, it didn't affect him too much. Coming through Sector 1, a little bit of a snap oversteer coming out of the corner there, able to keep it pointed in the right direction. It's a personal best. Sector 2 as well, and Sector 3 as well. You can make up a lot of time getting the lines right and breaking points. So Yarshall angles it in towards the Sachs curve, gets to the bottom of the circuit, fastest way around the bank's turn, spinning it out in towards the S's section, and then winding it all the way through these final couple of corners. Catching up to the car ahead, giving it just a little bit more draft. But of course, there's a little bit of dirty air involved in this one as well, but not all that much on these GT3 machines. As he comes across the line, Tim Yarshall does improve his lap time. He doesn't improve his position though. Still remains P5 as he gets himself all sorts of upset over the curb there, as we have just shy of 3 minutes left in this qualifying session. Jeffrey Rietveld pole position. Högfeldt across the line, narrowly missing out on pole position by 4 thousandths of a second, as close as you like for the Swedish driver. I don't know if he'll have enough time to get back around, but look at the lap that Rietveld is on at the moment. Purple through Sector 1 and 2, the team red line. And, well, as long as he keeps it as a tidy Sector 3, this should be an improvement in the pole position time for the Dutch driver. So, winding his way through those final couple of corners now. Can't afford to get the car upset through here. You'll lose a little bit of time. Drive to the line for Jeffrey Rietveld. 4 thousandths of a second is the advantage right now. Does not improve on it, though. That was a very scrappy Sector 3. So, despite going fastest in 1 and 2, it was, well, it was all sorts of all over the place in Sector 3 and was not able to improve his time. Here is Marko Pejic. He's fastest through Sector 1 again now. So this qualifying session might not be done quite yet. And of course, you know, as is the typical race room fashion, the qualifying results do show a little bit early here before the session is actually done. So we do have to be conscious of that one. But Marko Pejic, again, purple Sector 2 as well. We might see a change in provisional pole position here if Pejic is able to hook up this final sector and do what Rietveld failed to do on what was looking to be an improvement in his lap time, as Tim Yarshall goes to pole position in the very dying moments of this qualifying session. But what does Pejic have in the tank? Will he make it back-to-back pole positions here? That's the question as he heads his way across the line, and he does it by 62 thousandths of a second. Pejic up to pole again. And, well, does anyone have anything in them to try and challenge this one? As we'll see. Here's Jeffrey Rietveld. It's not going to be enough unless this is a stellar Sector 3 here for Jeffrey Rietveld. It wasn't personal best through Sector 1, but it was off the pace through Sector 2, mostly due to the fact I don't think he has any drafting buddies. Of course, the results will show now, but for now, it's Marco Pajic on pole position with Tim Yarshall and Jeffrey Rietveld in P3. Rietveld will come across the line now to see if there's any improvement in terms of his lap time. I doubt it, however. Yeah, he just remains in P3. Högfeldt starts in P4 with Jonas Vanna in P5. Alexander Dorner then P6, Dipolska 7th, and in 8th is Yayovsky. 9th is Dorosikov, and Bodin in P10. There's P11 through 20. Markovic, P11, always on the outside, looking in at that top 10. So Markovic hoping to get a couple of overtakes done here in this race too, to try and secure a slot in the next season. Insert in here Nagy down to P14. And then those that did not have great qualifying sessions: Joyce Swerker, Sven Mackenberg, Sasha Zeifler, Daniel Berker, Manuel Rodriguez, and Renaud Herbert at the very back of 26 car starting grid here for race number 2. 30 minutes, endurance race. Pit stop is involved. Mandatory pit stop. You have to do it, as you also have to take the tire swap as well of all 4 tires. So undercuts, overcuts, all possible, all sorts of possible here today. We saw a good couple of early stops at Spa-Francorchamps. Will we see them here again today? We will just have to wait and see. The drivers taking themselves to the starting grid now. This is the last chance saloon, everyone. Last race before we get ourselves our entries decided for the ADAC GT Masters eSports Championship. The last race of the last shootout. It's just about to start here at Hockenheim with Marco Pajic on pole position. Is he able to drive off into the sunset like race number 1, or will he be challenged? We're off and away here for the 30-minute endurance race. Another great start from Pajic as Yarshall has to slot in behind as they file their way through turn number 1, side by side behind as well, though, involving Vanna and Dorneden, I believe it was, but they get line and stern on the way down in towards turn number 2, your main first overtaking point at this racetrack. Here comes Dorneden again, trying to fight it out with Yuyovsky this time around, and he gets himself through. And that's P6 for the German driver, as I don't think there's been too many casualties heading their way through turn 2 for the first time. Everyone's still clumped together in this train through to the hairpin for the first time now. Is there going to be any big moves, any big sends down the inside? I think there is, as there's the battle for the race lead. Tim Yarshall briefly overtaking Marco Pajic for the lead, but Pajic will try to fight it back off of the corner. They're absolutely level on the way in towards turn 7 here, with Pajic on the inside and the Porsche. The Mercedes gets the inside now for turn number 8. Has Pajic outbroke himself, though? He goes out very wide. Careful, there's old tyres involved here as well, but Pajic is able to keep himself ahead. Yarshall, he's not giving this one up at all. He's still trying to find the line off the corner, find the inside in towards the kink. This might end in tears as Yarshall finds the inside. Does he give him the squeeze? There's a little bit of a squeeze, but all is fair as Yarshall now leads this race, and Rietveld's able to come through on the outside of the Sachs curve to be able to take P2 as well. So that's 2 positions lost on the first lap for your pole position sitter of Marco Pajic. This race too has just got a bit more complicated for him. Still should be good in terms of points, however, due to that race win in the first sprint race. But now it looks like things are a bit more spicy for leading positions, at least early on in this endurance event. Fantastic stuff back there as Högfeldt gets all out of shape coming through turn 1, and now is fighting with the Bentley of Jonas Vanna, who takes to the inside through turn 2. Corvette swinging its way through, and well, Högfeldt will not have the best speed here coming off of the first couple of corners as a result of the slightly different line. He'll still try to challenge, though, on the way into the hairpin. A long way around required. Keeping an eye on the front of the field as well. We'll see if they go wheel to wheel. Yarshall trying to cover off the line here from Rietveld, as well. We didn't see this in race 1 at all, but now they're going hell for leather in race number 2 for the race lead. Yarshall maintains his position. Rietveld in P2. Pajic dropped off the back of this one. I don't think he wants to get himself involved in any of the shenanigans going on up here at the moment. Rietveld getting the drive off the corner. He brings himself alongside just briefly. And, well, Yarshall is able to cover that one off, though. We're seeing some fantastic action at the very front of the field early on in this 30-minute event. And I don't think they're going to give up just yet either. Rietveld definitely one of the drivers that doesn't well, particularly care about what the point situation is. He wants to go and win races. It seems to be in his blood, but Yarshel keeping him from it for now. Just to give you a little bit of an update further down the field, here's Petr Pliska, who had a very poor first race as a result of an incident early on. He's up into P8, so, well, I don't think that'll be quite enough for him to qualify into the season at the end of the day, but a couple more positions he might be within a shot. If he gets solidly inside the top 5, then I would be looking a little bit more optimistic for the Italian's chances to get himself qualified. But for now, I don't think P8 is going to be enough here in this one. Lap number 3, and I get the weird feeling that these leaders are going to have a little bit of a scrap once again into the heavy braking zone. Let's see it then, as Page in 3rd place does have a decent run coming into the braking zone. Won't challenge, however. Rietveld will try and attempt down the inside. Cracks the inside open, but doesn't have the momentum off the corner required to be able to make anything of it. Here's the onboard then with Marko Pajic, who currently resides in P3. Well, he has the best seat in the house to try and watch this battle, doesn't he, in that final podium spot. Yasha and Rietveld certainly having no holds barred in this situation. We've got ourselves almost 5 minutes done in this race. Time flies when you're having fun, that's for certain. But I doubt they'll be able to go at it for another full 25 minutes. That would be a little excessive, but I think I'll destroy my voice at the end of it. But that's the excitement that we need injected into our veins, that's for certain. Towards the end of lap number 3 then, Yarshel still leads from Rietveld from Pajic, as that all got shuffled around through the first 2 laps. Lots of fighting in and amongst the front of the train, and well, the rest of the train isn't really too far off in this situation either. Vanno still keeping tabs of the top 3, same with Ergfeld and same with Jajovski as well, so everyone's still established in this drafting train. And potentially things might be changed around once again into the hairpin, depending on these runs, depending on the slipstream. Of course, we do have to factor in that pit stop as well. Remember, some drivers do prefer to go super early, get on the fresher tyres, as Jajovski, I think, locked up the brakes in towards the hairpin and gave the love tap to the back of Högfeldt ahead of him. I don't think Högfeldt would be too appreciative of that, but at least Jajovski got it somewhat stopped and didn't cause a bigger incident as a result of it. Top 3 trying to break away from the rest of the field now. It seems like once they get in line and are able to focus on their own laps, then they are able to pull away. It's just the scrapping that they did earlier on that really brought them back into the clutches of those drivers behind. And that, of course, tends to happen when you have an extended wheel-to-wheel moment. Top 10 in points after both the races this evening get themselves qualified. This is what these drivers are racing for, a chance at glory in one of the top RaceRoom competitions in 2022. That's what's on the line, a decent amount of prize money as well, or at least the chance to compete for a decent amount of prize money. This is the evolution of sim racing over the years. It's become a lot more professional. There's been a lot more money invested in it, and bigger competitions as big series and big companies get themselves involved, as we see Pajic looking to go the long way around at the hairpin, looking for the speed off the corner instead with a later apex. And well, he's going to have a bit of a run here. He's got the slipstream as well, so maybe not through turn 7, but maybe an angle towards the inside for turn 8 is required. Will not go for the move though. Remember, the guys inside the top 3 relatively safe in terms of points. That's what I would say, but never say never with regards to racing drivers trying to fight for podium positions, because at this point it's more about psychological advantage. It's more about the well, testing out those skills and getting the bragging rights, I suppose, for those guys at the front of the field. So now sort of pit window starting to open up now as we see those little notifications of the pit stop status of each of the drivers up on the left-hand side. So there we go. Jeffrey Rietveld stays out. Same with Tim Yarshall. Pajic is in though. So Pajic in. Jonas Vanna is in as well, so at their first opportunity, a few drivers have decided to head their way in down towards the pit lane to get their fuel and tyres for the end. I'm seeing about just shy of a quarter, around about a quarter of the field coming down in to get that stop done. So Vitmo in, Dornaden, Dervosikov, Vanna, Nagy, Pajic, Vermeulen, all deciding to come in at this stage and bolt some fresher rubber onto those cars. And, well, hopefully get themselves a good couple of outlaps so that they're able to pull off the undercut on those drivers that they were trying to compete with. However, Yarshall, Rietveld, Högfeld, Jajovski, and others decided to remain out there at least one more lap. Some of them will try and push the fuel a little bit further. They'll push the fuel to as long as it could go, pretty much, and then come down in at the last minute. There always seems to be this sort of split strategy in these races. The ADAC GT Masters eSports Championship, but how many laps do these leaders want to remain out there? That's the issue. Remember though, those drivers that change tyres this early on, well, they'll have older tyres for the end of the race, so those that go that little bit deeper in this first stint will have a tyre advantage in the closing moments of this race. Could be very much the deciding factors. In comes Yarshall, then in comes Rietveld as Högfeld stays out there, same with Jajovski. So the top two cars in at this stage, going one lap longer than what seems to be about half the field. So it was over a quarter than I suggested it. But Yarshall now down in towards his pit. That's important not to speed on pit lane. We haven't seen anyone do it just yet. However, it is a thing that has happened with quite a common occurrence in this series, especially last year in 2021, and in particular, I think it was the shootout round at Zandvoort, where we basically got half the field get themselves speeding in the pit lane penalties. But not so here today. Everyone pretty clean. But Yarshall getting himself his pit stop done now. Where is he going to come out in relation to, well, Brinkfeld's behind him, but where he's going to come out in relation to Marko Pajic. There is Marko Pajic heading his way through the first corner now. There's Rietveld and Yarshall getting out ahead of him, so Pajic wasn't able to use that one lap undercut to his advantage. You do need a few more laps than that to be able to make something of it. Of course, his tyres are up into the operating window now, so he'll at least get another half a lap to a lap or so of better performance before those tyres start to come in for both Yarshall and Rietveld. So if Pajic wants to make a move here, he has to do it and quickly. I'm not even necessarily sure he wants to make a move. He won the first race at, first race of the evening. And if he finishes third here today, then you know, it's fine. He's basically certainly qualified into the next season. So there's not really much of a point in going for anything more than that, especially when there's no prizes for finishing any higher than 10th place, because then everyone inside the top 10 get themselves qualified. So we'll have to see what happens. Of course, you know, Pajic has been in a similar situation to this before. However, remember in the DTM eSports qualifier just 6 days ago, he was in a pretty comfortable qualifying position. Pretty comfortable slot that transfers him into the main season spot, but he threw it all away with a bit of a self-spin. So maybe he's thinking back to that now. Okay, I can't afford to have something like that happen again now. I'm just going to sit behind these guys. I'll let them fight if they decide to fight, but I'm just going to try and keep myself out of trouble for now, because a P1 in the sprint race, a P3 in the feature race is pretty much all I need with regards to the point situation at the end of this evening. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me for this one, 3GS Motorsports saying ciao, hi to all RaceRoom, and Magnus saying great stream. Thank you very much, Magnus, for the kind words of support. We've still got 17 minutes left to go here in this one. There's Christopher Hergfeldt as he's your current race leader. He hasn't come down on towards the pit lane just yet. He's in the same boat as Herbion, Zeifler, Becker, and Blucher. So those drivers with the red indication on the tower have not come down on towards the pit lane just yet, but Högfeldt now feeling the need to want to come down in and get his car serviced. So not as many drivers going for the ultra long strategy here, which is what we saw was relatively common in the main season in 2021. So drivers deciding to come down in, get themselves the fresher tyres, trying to cover off those undercuts that the initial grouping of drivers attempted. Zeifler is going to continue to try and stay out here. Same with Becker, Blucher, and, well, just those three drivers, in fact. So Becker and Blucher. Becker and Blucher. Wow, I never realized how similar those names are in pronunciation. They don't look similar in terms of spelling, but Becker and Blucher. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that German pronunciation. Maybe if any Germans in the chat can try and correct me on that one. But yeah, a little bit of an entertaining point there. As we see Herbion drop down the order, that's because he's on the pit lane getting himself the fresh tyres at the end of the race and the rest of the fuel going in that Corvette, able to join onto circuit in 20th place currently, might get filed down into 21st place as the momentum from the car behind might bring Costa through, and yep, Costa does get through up into P20, so that's the situation there for Herbion sitting up behind the Frenchman. This is technically your top three cars at the moment. Yes, it is a battle for P4, you can see on the left-hand side. However, those three cars that are out in front right now have not come down on towards the pit lane just yet, so they are really not technically P1 through 3. However, Yarshall basically in the effective race lead at the moment, doing very well to try and get himself up into that position. Rietveld second place, Pajic, our sprint race winner, remaining in effective third place. Lucky7 Wolfen saying, yeah, great job with the stream. Thank you very much. It does fill me with a sense of pride to see people enjoying proceedings here today. Meanwhile, though, you do have your final pit stop. Well, your final cars come down on towards the pit lane to get themselves their fresh tyres and fuel for the end. So Blucher, Zeifler, and Becker all in at this stage. It does mean, though, that Tim Yarshall now comes through and re-inherits the race lead with just about 14 minutes left remaining on the clock. So this is turning out to be a pretty exemplary race for Tim Yarshall as he looks to try and qualify himself into the main season. Rietveld similarly so for him. Pajic, of course, we know he's pretty secure in terms of points at the end of the day. If he finishes where he is, he doesn't necessarily need to get himself up into P2 or even into P1. Just sit there in third place and he will be qualified. However, they do get close to the hairpin though. A little bit too close for comfort, I get the feeling. Don't want to be throwing away a top three here in the main race. That will ruin your day and perhaps ruin your chances at qualifying. Further back through the order, unfortunately, our tower's a little bit too tall for that graphic there. We'll have to remove that for now. But there's Nagy and Mackenberg. They're fighting for 14th place at the moment between the German and the Hungarian. The Hungarian trying to, well, pass the German at the moment, says Mackenberg is continuing to hold on to that 14th place. But whether or not he'll be able to hold on to it for 13 more minutes still remains to be seen. So we'll see if Nagy is able to climb himself a little bit further up the order just to try and score that, you know, a few extra points here and there. We'll try and help him out in terms of the standings at the end of the day, the all-important standings, the top 10 of which qualify for next season. We had already 10 drivers qualify from Shootout number 1. We had 8 drivers qualify automatically due to their performances in both the GT3 main championship from last season, and of course the support series as well. 3 drivers from the support series get themselves qualified into the next season. This is going to be our last group of drivers to try to attempt to get themselves their ticket. There's the top 3 through the hairpin. I have to be honest, I'm not expecting them to fight as aggressively at the end of this race as they did on the opening couple of laps. I think they got in over their heads a little bit in those initial laps with the excitement, with the battles. However, all 3 of them now have a safe amount of points. And that amount of points for all 3 of them, I think, might just be enough to get themselves qualified into the next season. So it's risky to fight at this stage because, you know, you don't want to have it end in tears in contact and with you being speared into a wall or some such, and then instead of scoring top 3 points, you score nil points. 0 points if that happens. So I'm expecting these front 3 to take it relatively conservatively. Of course, there's always, like I said in the first shootout, there's always that racing driver urge to try and go for the win. I'm definitely not denying that that's a thing. We've seen it many times, in fact. But however, sometimes the big picture is the more important one, and remaining in position is the way to go. But we'll have to see what happens in the final 10 minutes. I could be wrong, of course. I could, you know, these 3 could just absolutely have an immense battle at the end here. But however, I'm not expecting it. Even if the opportunities arise, I am not expecting it. So I think the battles that you would see are ones further down the order on the edge of the top 10. For example, Elita Dinya versus Markovic. That potentially might be an important battle because I think both of those guys finished in and around the top 10 on that last race. So it's going to be crucial for those guys to score another top 10 finish and to try and give themselves the best chance possible. So I think these guys are going to fight a little bit harder than those front 3 are if they get themselves the opportunity to do so. Anything can happen in 10 minutes though. That's all I'm saying. Indeed. Lucky Wolfen saying, Kamikaze last laps are always entertaining. Yeah, I mean, you got to look at the situation now. This is the last chance for some of these drivers to try and get themselves qualified into the season. They are going to take every single opportunity that even is slightly possible, and many of them, I think, will take opportunities that are never going to happen, which does result in incident, of course. But yeah, this potentially might be quite a pressure-filled final 9 minutes for a handful of drivers. Of course, we're watching one of them right now, Elita Dinya, and Markovic behind as well in that yellow Mercedes. Those guys have a lot to do in these last couple of laps to try and get themselves qualified. Of course, drivers further down the order, Nagy, Wackenberg, Kunze, you know, they all still have an outside shot of getting in, so they'll want to be pulling off the overtake sooner rather than later. But however, like I said, this front 3, there's not a requirement for them to try and fight at this stage. It would be nice if they did. It would be entertaining if they did. However, it is not the best course of action. So that's why I'm not getting myself too hyped up for this top 3, despite how close they are. Of course, if this was a regular season and we had the sort of regular point structure and the regular whatever, then of course this would be incredibly exciting. But we'll just have to wait and see. Hoping everyone's enjoying this event here on YouTube, and of course we are streaming live on the RaceRoom Facebook stream as well. So hello to everyone over there that's watching proceedings here today. If you're just joining us, this is the second shootout of the ADAC GT Masters eSports Championship for 2022. This is sort of the qualification procedure coming into the next season. So the top 10 drivers from, well, the combination of both races here today will get themselves a ticket into the GT3 Championship of the ADAC GT Masters eSports season. So So that's what we're looking at here. So that's you know, that's why the stakes are so high. Of course, we've had 8 drivers already confirmed qualified due to their performances last season. We have a further 10 that qualified themselves through the first shootout. This is just the final 7 minutes of the last qualifier to the season. To wheel behind, the first signs of fighting as Julian Kunze looks down the inside of Marvin Mackenberg, and well, Kunze gains the position quite easily, in fact, through the hairpin. What's Nagy got for Vermeulen now as he'll look to try and challenge in towards turn number 8. Vermeulen overcommits to the corner, allows Nagy to slip back in underneath. Oh, Vermeulen almost gets into the right rear quarter of David Nagy, but Nagy is able to narrowly avoid that one and squeeze himself through just in time. So, overtakes already starting to happen within the final 7 minutes of this event. Not a lot of laps to go, everyone, before we get ourselves confirmation of the entry list, shall we say, for the next season of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. So, Nagy gaining himself a couple more points. Julian Kunze gaining himself a handful of more points with overtakes on that lap there. On to lap number 15 then. There's the top 3 continuing to circulate their way around. 3 different manufacturers involved in this top 3, which is great to see. Like I said, despite the majority Corvettes that we have here today, it seems like the Mercedes and Porsche have punched above their weight and have continued to try and get themselves involved. Speaking of getting themselves involved, Rietveld tried to go down the inside of Yarshall for the race lead. I said I thought they weren't going to fight, but it seems like Rietveld has other ideas. He wants to try and score maximum points here in the endurance race, and well, he's got to be very, very careful about it, otherwise it might go all wrong and he won't get himself a slot into next season if he falls too far down the order as a result of an incident. So that was a hopeful move, that was a hopeful look and a shot across the bow of Tim Yarshall. I think if this becomes an extended side-by-side fight, I think Yarshall might as well just back out of it in this situation, because it's not worth fighting that strongly for the race lead when you know just top 10 in points is enough to try and get yourself through to the season. And just let Rietveld have the bragging rights, let Rietveld have the win. That might just have to be the strategy just for self-conservation at the end of this one with 5 minutes left to go. Let's have a look on board then with the driver of Marco Pajic once again in the Porsche, third in line, always waiting in the wings in these sorts of battles is Pajic. He's pretty damn good at picking up the pieces if they all go so wrong as well. Once again, the race leaders trying to go wheel to wheel into the hairpin as where does Marco Pajic go in this situation? Well, he's not going to get the decision just yet, but Rietveld with another attempt down the to try and get up into the race lead. He might have another shot at it in towards turn 8 as well. Forces Yarshall to go slightly defensive, taking the shallower line through turn number 8 as Rietveld gets the drive off the corner in the Corvette. Not quite able to establish the overlap by the time they get to the right-hander. This is getting pretty spicy for the race lead, let me tell you that. Marco Pajic, he knows what he needs to do. I mean, even he's trying to go for an overtake now on Jeffrey Rietveld. So this is less about the point situation now and more about bragging rights and the interactions between the drivers. Absolutely loving seeing this. 3 minutes now. And well, I think this top 3 at this point might come across the line in pretty much any order that you can think of. Yarshall breaking away at the front of the pack a little bit there by about half a second. He will be reeled in somewhat thanks to the slipstream though down this back straight, but Yarshall getting himself just that little bit more breathing room in this situation. It's so crucial for him to have that in the latter portions of this race, especially with everyone trying to be so aggressive on his rear bumper. Attempting to score maximum here today. Rietveld second in line behind. Then you got Marco Pirch. And by the way, while all of this has been going on, Christopher Högfeldt has continued to try and catch the gap. He's in P4 for now, and well, he does, well, he would prefer, with the result in race number 1, a better result in race number 2 will certainly help him out in terms of qualification. Minute 35 to go, so the next time these guys cross the line, it will be the start of the final lap here for the final race of the shootout procedure in the ADAC GT Masters eSports Championship, powered by EnBW Mobility Plus for the 2022 season. For the let's see then what happens here in this front grouping. They've spaced out from each other just that little bit more over the last couple of laps than they were previously, so the chances of the battle happening are a little lower in this situation compared to what it has been. But again, this might not be done here. One more lap to go. Yarshall, his gap in the race lead has come down a little bit here. Maybe not quite enough for Rietveld to be able to do anything about it into the hairpin. He's going to try and angle and show the nose slightly anyway. On the brakes through the corner, Yarshall a little bit slow through mid-corner compared to Rietveld. Rietveld's able to gain a little bit of time as a result of that one. Continuing to try and close that gap down and in, although the two big overtaking opportunities here at this racetrack kind of came in the first half of the lap, so of course the second half of the lap it's a little bit less likely to be able to get anything done. Not impossible, of course, but very much less likely. Now into that fast right-hander at turn number 11. Looking for the next braking zone into the Sachs curve now. Tim Yarshall has managed this final half of the race very well, despite all of the pressure that's being piled onto his rear wing, or rather his rear spoiler. The Mercedes comes through the final corner. Tim Yarshall then wins the endurance race here for the second shootout of the ADAC GT Masters eSports Championship for 2022. Yarshall on top. So despite the majority Corvettes in this race, none of them win any of the two races here today. Pliska comes across the line in P8 there in the BMW, able to recover at least some points from the second race. I don't think it's going to be enough for him to qualify, but of course we'll get ourselves confirmation of the standings shortly after proceedings here today. If you ask me, Yarshall should be fine, Rietveld should be fine, Payet should be fine, Högfeldt up there as well. Still remains to be seen whether Yojovski and the drivers further down the order are able to get themselves qualified. But here's the unofficial results, of course. Pending steward's review, Yarshall, Rietveld, Payet, top 3. Högfeldt, Yojovski down to top 5. Got Dornaden, Vanna, Pliska, Rietveld, and Digne rounding out the top 10. Digne might just squeeze himself in, by the way. We'll have to see how the mathematics works out here. Markovic, similar sort of situation for him as well. Those are the drivers that are sort of either in or out, depending on how this has worked out. Vosikov in P12, as Nagy in P13, Vermeulen in P14 with Kunstef P15, Mackenberg P16, Costa, Zeifler, Villa, and Berker rounding out the top 20 here today. Herbion, Rodriguez, Berker, Mackenberg, Grace, and Bodin round out the entire field. Bodin, the only retirement from this race, by the way. Everyone else finishing on the leading lap. There's a refresher of the top 10 then, as we bring proceedings to a close here in the second shootout of the ADAC GT Masters eSports Championship 2022. A pretty exciting fair. I think this is probably one of the more exciting of the two shootouts, I get the feeling. The racing at Spa was good, yes, but not as action-packed as the racing here at Hockenheimring on occasion. So if I had to rate one better of the two, then it would be this one. But there's the clarification and, of course, the schedule for things to come. We've got both of these shootouts done now, both at Spa and Hockenheim over the last 3 days. And now we look forwards to Brands Hatch with all of our qualified drivers to start off the season. And then we head to Watkins Glen, we head to Nürburgring, we head to Zandvoort, Silverstone, and Monza. Monza being our finale at the very end of the season. Lisa Dinia asking, is Mattia in? Well, I don't know at the moment. We'll just have to wait and see. We will have to see the confirmation from the stewards to see exactly who has placed where. I won't end this stream until we know. So you don't have to worry about having to try and scour social media after this one. We will just have to wait and sit tight and get the calculations going, get the spreadsheets up, and we'll be able to see who is qualified and who is unfortunately not going to be joining us for the main season of this championship. In terms of an ETA, unfortunately, I do not know at the moment with regards to the results. It came pretty quick at the end of shootout number 1, so I would expect the same here at the end of shootout number 2. So to describe who is in and who is out of the season, of course, this is the last chance for the drivers to qualify themselves into the season. So it's every driver saying good race, but of course no results in terms of standings just yet here in this one, everyone. So we will have to sit tight and we will have to make sure the due diligence is being considered as far as the administrators are concerned to get everything right and get the right names through. Victor Bliss saying, RaceRoom, can we get much more tracks from you on a big amount of the tracks? My money waiting. Unfortunately, I am just a freelancer. I'm not working for RaceRoom. Well, I do run their streams, but I don't work for them. So, yeah, give them out feedback. Yeah, I mean, there's always tracks in development. I would have thought it's just a matter of them being finished and being released. So, yeah, hopefully some things are on the horizon for 2022. Andreas quite rightfully coming out with it. Yeah, the RaceRoom does have a large amount of tracks, so yeah, there's a good complement of them, of course. But obviously, more the merrier, if you ask me. We are continuing to wait, however, for confirmation of the results. Of course, when it comes to the actual season starting in February, we will be able to get interviews with the drivers, of course, and to have a little bit more of a comprehensive post-race show than what we're able to have at the moment. But of course, that will all get cleaned up and ready for the main season. Just to recap then, these are the drivers that qualified automatically from last season. So Lona, Brzezinski, Banki, Hassa, Price. Those 5 drivers, top 5 in the GT3 Championship from last season, automatically qualified. Top 3 in the support series, Emre Pincez, and Ottaviani, all qualified into the coming season. They do not have to worry about going through shootouts. Here are the drivers that qualified from the first shootout at Spa-Francorchamps. Feduzzi, Rudinger, Keithley, Gassner, Siggy, Wisniewski, Pfeiffer, Rachel. Of course, we didn't see Tim Yarshall qualify, of course, because he got himself penalties at the end of this one. And, of course, Krippner at the very bottom of the order there got himself qualified through as well. As Keithley quite rightfully mentioned, it was Martin Barner that took Yarshall's qualifying spot, for example. So this is not entirely accurate from shootout number 1. However, everyone above Tim Yarshall certainly qualified, and of course Leonard Krippner as well. In terms of shootout number 2, of course, well, we're still waiting for those to come through. I hope everyone has enjoyed regardless, of course, as well. We had 2 action-packed races here today. That 15-minute sprint race with Marko Pejic coming out on top of the pile in the Porsche. And, of course, race number 2 was not too shabby whatsoever, with Yarshel taking the race win at the very end. In terms of how that works out in terms of points, well, we're waiting with bated breath to get news from the stewards. One of the people in the YouTube chat saying any information on when Assen will be out in the store. I have just about as much idea as you do, and even if I knew, they probably wouldn't let me tell you. So, make of that what you will. Hopefully at some point it will be available. Andreas is saying, 38 likes, thanks, was fun. Thank you very much for watching. It's been all sorts of excitement on these streams. It's a struggle as a solo commentator as well, but I'm kind of getting used to it for the moment with no one to bounce off of. And you guys in the chat, of course, really do help out when it comes to that as well. So if we look at the schedule for the coming season, let's see, how would people rate these tracks then? Because at least, I have a little bit of a bias towards Brands Hatch, of course. I am British, so therefore the British track, that's going to be one of my favorites. But and of course Silverstone is on the calendar as well, another British track. So I think there's a heavy British bias here in this season. But in terms of tracks I'm looking forward to, of course, round number 1 is going to be amazing, but Nürburgring is always a pretty good race in this championship. Of course, going to Watkins Glen as well. Watkins Glen can be very hit and miss. Either you can have a fantastic race at the Watkins Glen, or it can be the equivalent to watching paint dry. To be brutally honest, so we'll have to see what's in store for that one. Of course, Monza for finale. I mean, any race at Monza is generally pretty good. As long as people survive the first chicane for the first time on lap number 1, then generally great races are held at Monza. But it's hard to pick a favorite out of all of those, that's for sure. The Rudinger, one of our drivers, saying great job on the commentary as always, Conor. Thank you very much. It always makes you feel good inside that even the drivers enjoy what I'm saying, even if they sometimes might take issue with some of the bits. But as long as everyone's enjoying, then that's my main priority. Someone's saying, is this also live on Twitch? Unfortunately, we are not live on Twitch. Just YouTube and Facebook only. I think RaceRoom does have a Twitch channel. We just don't stream to it. So yeah, that's the situation there. Still waiting on those standings, of course. I mean, this is a viewer. Oh, actually, hang on. Hold the phone, everyone. Hold the phone, as that is a British phrase. We might have ourselves confirmation of who has qualified and who has not. Let's take a look then. I will drag this in to see exactly what the situation is in terms of the shootout. So, standings, let me just read them over myself to see if they make sense, and they look like they do make sense. So let's have a look then at who currently has qualified from shootout number 2 at Hockenheim. Tim Yarshel, of course, with the race win in the second race. Of course, that was pretty much a certainty. He actually tops the points here at the end of shootout number 2. Marko Pejic, of course, we said he was pretty clear in terms of qualification as well, so he is absolutely fine. Rietveld is also through. Högfeld is also through. Jajovski gets himself through in 5th place. Dorneden in 6th place. He is qualified. Jonas Vanna in as well. Wittvoet in. Markovic is in. And Julian Kunze is in with 27 points there. Of course, if there is a tie on points, then of course the driver with the best finishes in the 2 races gets themselves the priority. So it goes back on regular count back like you see in other series, like how many race wins, how many second places, how many third places. That's how the tiebreakers are sorted out. But yeah, those are the top 3 from today. Not top 3, excuse me, top 10 from today that get themselves qualified into the 2022 ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. Tim Yarshell, Marco Payet, Jeffrey Rietveld, Christopher Högfeldt, Ihan Jajovski, Alexander Dornaden, Jonas Vanna, Luciano Wittvogt, Matija Markovic, and Julian Kunze. They are all qualified through, of course, pending any further adjustments that need to happen. I don't think so. I think this is relatively final compared to what we saw at the end of shootout number 1, but those are the drivers that are through. So with that, I'll have to close up shop here. Thank you very much for everyone tuning in to these 2 shootouts. Of course, we've got a bit of a break between now and when we get the start of the ADAC GT Masters Esports Championship. I will be there for it. I'll potentially be there with Paul Smith, my regular co-commentator here, so it's not going to be a solo comm. It'll be back to a regular dual commentary shenanigans going on for the main season. But thank you very much, everyone. My name has been Connery Maddock, and I'll see you for when the main season starts a couple of weeks into February. You do not want to miss that. It's going to be crazy. Bye-bye.